November 2016, the winner of the popular vote for president was declared to have lost the election? Again? Second time in our lifetime. How is that possible? Well, blame these guys in their fetching knickers, stylish knee socks, and powdered wigs. They're the ones who gave us the cockamamie Electoral College. Hi, Michaela here. A British friend asked me to explain the Electoral College to him, so Ryan O'Connor, this is for you. It was you who brought me back to YouTube. Well, you and Trump, but you I will thank, and I hope this helps. I should warn you, the Electoral College is so screwy it's going to take me at least 4 videos to get through it. Michaela's take on the Electoral College. Here's the plan. 1, what is it? 2, what were they thinking? 3, how bad could it be, really? 4, can we scrap it? That's going to be a short one because I don't think we can, but there is one plausible path. Democracy in principle, one person, one vote. Democracy with the Electoral College, some votes are bigger than others, much bigger. Some votes don't even make it to the ballot box. The way the United States goes about picking a president is just bizarre. It takes too much time. Do we really need to drag this out for nearly 2 years? 2 years to get to Donald Trump? Really? Britain gets it done in less than 2 months, but then again, Britain wound up with David Cameron. Twice, although the second time he decided not to stick around. Too much time and too much money. Estimates for the 2016 presidential election, $2.5 billion. Throw in the congressional races, throw in the Senate races, it tops $6 billion. Too much time, too much money, and too much monkey business. One of our parties, and I think you know which one, is devoted to making it harder, not easier to vote, especially targeting folks who are likely to vote for the other party. It amounts to candidates picking the voters instead of voters picking the candidates. That's backwards, that's wrong, that's rigging the election. And then there's this, the main event, the Electoral College, the institution that twice in our lifetime has made the person with fewer votes president. Did you come in first? Well, that's tough. You go find another job. Let me put it another way. Of the first 3 presidents to serve in the 21st century, 2 came in second. So let's dive in. Part 1. What is the Electoral College? We watch it every 4 years on TV, now on the internet. Polls close, state by state at different hours, rolling from east to west. Votes come in, states flip blue, states flip red, hour by hour, and then the magic number, 270, is reached. Why 270? That's a majority of the Electoral College, and we have a winner. By the way, if it turns out that nobody gets a majority, and that has happened, the whole system moves to Plan B. Ditch the Electoral College altogether. The House of Representatives will elect the president. But I will talk about that in part 3. Let's start with the numbers. The number of electoral votes across the country always totals 538. No more, no fewer. Okay, well, a long time ago, fewer. But not since 1962. The population goes up each year. The Electoral College doesn't. Each state gets a number of electoral votes based roughly on their population. States with fewest people get 3 electors. States with more people, more electors. Still more people, even more electors. And so on, and so on, and so on, until you hit California, which has the most people and the most electoral votes. The numbers are adjusted every 10 years after the national census to keep up with population shifts. When I was a kid, New York had the most electoral votes. Now, New York trails California and Texas, and it's tied with Florida. The allotment is not mathematically proportional, it's only roughly proportional. How roughly? Okay, California, the state with the most people, has 18 times as many electoral votes as Wyoming, the state with the fewest people. Well, that sounds fair, doesn't it? 18 times, till you notice that California has 67 times as many people as Wyoming. That's a lot of voices getting muzzled. The actual formula is that each state gets a number of electors equal to their number of representatives in Congress, which at the moment ranges from 1 to 53, plus their number of senators, which is always 2. No matter how many people live in a state, or no matter how few, the number of senators will always be 2. One exception, Washington, D.C. They have 0 senators, 1 non-voting member of the House, but they get 3 electoral votes anyway. It took a constitutional amendment to give the people who live in our capital city the vote, and they get as many votes, as many electoral votes, as the least populous state, which is, pop quiz, right, Wyoming. U.S. citizens who live in territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands have 0 electoral votes. No voice at all in electing the president. They are full citizens, but they don't get to vote for president unless they move to a state. I'll show you more Electoral College issues and distortions in part 3, but here's just a taste of how screwy it is. Wyoming again. I'm sorry to pick on you, Wyoming, but you do have the fewest people. Around 600,000 people live there. They get 3 electoral votes. Their neighbors to the north in Montana also get 3 electoral votes, but they have over 1 million people. See, when you only have 538 votes to work with and you have to deal 3 votes off the top to every state, you can't get granular enough to make it proportional. Look at this. Over on the East Coast, Rhode Island. Can you see it? Tiny. Rhode Island has only 23,000 more people than Montana. That's about as many people as you'll find in a major league ballpark on a bad attendance day. But it's just enough to bump Rhode Island up to the next level. They get 4 electoral votes. 2% more people than Montana, 33% more clout in the Electoral College. But that's just population. Now what happens when you look at the votes? Some examples. Wyoming and Montana again. Both went for Trump in 2016. He got 3 electoral votes from each. Now, these 3 votes in Wyoming carried the voice of 174,000 Trump voters, but in Montana, nearly 100,000 more people voted for Trump. Still only 3 electoral votes. Most of those people might as well have stayed home for all the difference it made. But wait, it gets weirder. Let's compare Montana with tiny Rhode Island over on the East Coast. Rhode Island went blue, voted Hillary. 250,000 votes gave her the state. But that's fewer people who voted for Hillary in Rhode Island than voted for Trump in Montana. Nevertheless, they managed to deliver 4 electoral votes to Hillary. So let me say it again. Hillary got fewer actual votes in Rhode Island than Trump got in Montana, but she walked away with more electoral votes. Okay, so far we're talking electoral votes. We still haven't gotten to the college. What's the Electoral College? Well, I think you know, we don't actually elect the president on Election Day. We don't. Their names may be on the ballot, but technically Clinton and Trump got 0 votes on November 8th. So did Jill Stein. Who got the votes? People you never heard of. When we think we're voting for president, we're actually voting for teams of people who go vote for the president at a later date. Because the Electoral College isn't just abstract votes and colored maps. The Electoral College, like Soylent Green, is people, actual human electors. 538 is the number. It works like this. They serve on separate committees in each state pledged to vote for our candidates. A little more than a month after the people vote, all these separate committees go meet in their own state capitals and they vote for the president. Specifically, 3 people plus alternates head to Helena, Montana to have a meeting. 12 people go to Olympia, Washington for a meeting. 6 people go to Jackson, Mississippi. 20 people head to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, etc. Those are the ones who actually elect the president and vice president. They record and certify their votes and send them off to Washington with copies to their state archives. And then in January, the votes are counted at a joint session of Congress. Now, usually the electors will vote the way we tell them to, but they don't have to. Sometimes, rarely, they don't. This year in my state, Washington, 2 electors said they will not vote the way the people want them to. 2 other electors in other states said they may not vote with their party. And that's perfectly legal. Well, no, in some states it's not legal, but it's only a misdemeanor. And if you're willing to pay the fine, you can do the crime. There have been 9 previous cases of this in my lifetime, most recently 2004. None of them ever changed the outcome, but it's happened often enough that we have a name for it: faithless electors. And in 2016, there's actually a movement afoot to encourage faithless electors. It's the last opportunity to stop Donald Trump from becoming president. Lawrence Lessig, the law professor behind Creative Commons, is pushing this very hard. I'll talk about that in part 2. If you can't wait, I'll tell you right now, it's not going to happen. Trust me. So these 50 state committees, plus 1 in the District of Columbia, taken together, that's the Electoral College. Finally, we got to the college. College meaning a group of colleagues. Electoral meaning they elect. It's a temp job, usually for no pay. Once they do it, they're out of work. Being a presidential elector is probably the shortest term elected office in this country, maybe in the world. You're only in office for a couple of hours. You never actually get together and meet the whole college. So who are these electors? We don't know. Not that it's a secret. It's just that nobody cares. 538 people charged with the awesome responsibility of choosing our president and vice president. We have no interest in finding out who they are, most of us. Well, at the moment, however, there is an anti-Trump group circulating a spreadsheet with contact info for the electors so people can urge them to be faithless electors. I wonder how long before someone makes an app. Back in 1968, a pretty famous guy actually got to be an elector. Novelist James A. Michener, Pulitzer Prize winner, wrote Tales of the South Pacific, Hawaii, Centennial, tons of other books. And he wrote this book about his experience as an elector. I think the title alone tells you what you need to know. How did he get the gig? Michener said somebody from the party just called him up one night and said, "How would you like to be an elector?" His qualifications, quote, "My finest credentials were that every year I contributed what money I could to the party." Get this, Michener says that the year he served, Only 21 of the 29 electors in his state even showed up. He said that's common. They had to make a last-minute scramble to recruit alternates to fill it out. In an era of instant electronic communications and computerized vote counting, waiting a month to hold the official vote seems a quaint and harmless throwback to the 18th century. Well, quaint, yes, harmless, far from it. James Michener called it outmoded and inane, thought it might someday wreck the country, said it contained so many pitfalls that sooner or later it is bound to destroy us. So why do we even have it? Well, that's what I want to look at next. How did we get here? Everyone calls the founders geniuses, so why did they saddle us with the Electoral College? What were they thinking? Turns out what they were thinking was vastly different from what we now have. Our method of electing a president is not what the founders agreed to. Until next time, I'm Mikola. DVD extras. Here's something that surprised me. The term Electoral College does not appear in the Constitution or in any legislation. It's just what we call it. And I don't know where the phrase started. What the Constitution mentions are electors. No college involved. Extra, extra. So what happened this year? Where did Trump beat Clinton? Well, not in the popular vote. Counting is still not complete, but as I record this, here's where things stand. Clinton is headed for a 2 million vote margin popular vote victory. So how did Trump win? Well, he flipped 6 states that Obama carried 4 years ago. Here's the electoral map for 2016. The red states, Trump. Blue states, Clinton. Now let's roll back 4 years. Here's the map for 2012. Blue for Obama, red for Romney. You see the difference? Wait, I'll play eye doctor. Like this or like this? Like this or like this? It comes down to these 6 states. They went blue last time, red this time. These 6 states will give Donald Trump his margin of victory. Well, it turns out that I was born in one, studied Hebrew in one, went to summer camp in one. My parents retired to one, died and are buried there. I had a business meeting in one, and I never set foot in one. So though it pains me to say it, this is my America that elected Trump. Of the 6, 3 of these states should have been a blue firewall for Clinton. Wisconsin voted blue in the last 7 elections. Trump's margin 1%. Michigan voted blue in the last 6 elections. Trump's margin smaller than 1%, 0.3%. Pennsylvania, same thing. Blue for Bill Clinton twice. Al Gore, John Kerry, Barack Obama twice. Turns red for Trump. Margin of 1.2%. These 3 razor-thin margin states amount to 46 electoral votes. If they had stayed blue, Hillary would have been president. But this year they flipped red. Now everybody has a theory about why the blue firewall crumbled. Rust Belt, working class resentment of the elites, white identity politics on the right, non-white identity politics on the left, Steve Bannon, Breitbart, Comey's letter about new emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop, Comey's second letter saying, never mind, Russian hacks, WikiLeaks, Podesta's email, gender bias, a 30-year campaign to vilify Hillary, the Goldman Sachs speeches, Alex Jones' InfoWars audience showing up to vote. Purists on the left who voted third party. The media's game of false equivalence. The media's total disinterest in talking about issues. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Info bubbles. Fake news on Facebook. Hannity. Fox News. What did I miss? Every one of these is plausible, some barely. But if each of them kept just a few Hillary voters away or drove a few more Trump voters to show up, combined they could have made the difference. But never lose sight of this. It was not a rout. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, it was a squeaker. Trump may have the White House, but he does not have a mandate. Bye now. Oh my. Well, I haven't been in a bubble for a while. Yeah, everybody's talking about bubbles lately. Talking about how everybody is protected from everybody else because we're in our own info bubbles. Well, I was reading bubbles before it was hip. Big thanks to Ryan O'Connor for giving me the push it took to get me making videos again. Check out his channel over here. He's not as shouty as I am. He's more wistful, gentle, subtle. But I love his videos. There's nothing quite like them on YouTube. And here's an old video I made when Obama was first elected. I wonder if it still holds up. And there is where you'll find the next in this series. And that button doesn't do anything except subscribe you to my channel. So I hope you'll click it. See ya.